All right, starting strong with the Punch newspaper this morning, or if you permit me to punch in at this point, the stories making the headlines today. Well, it's leading with the story on Oyo Abduction in the Punch newspaper this morning, which of course you're very much part of the conversation. 0906-202-9933 is the number to call us once we've reeled out the papers this morning. Once you've heard us reel out all the headlines, then you can start engaging with us this morning on the papers. Well, it appears we're taking a little pause on bringing you that punch, right? Let's start off with the Vanguard rather this morning. It's leading with federal government, labor clash over use of fuel subsidy removal savings. Federal government and labor clash over use of fuel subsidy removal savings. Savings used to service increased workers' salaries and others. Oyedele and you're economical with truth. Labour tells federal government. Dares finance minister to produce evidence on salary claim. In fact, the minister had gone further to say in the coming days, he's going to bring forward a paper with detailed explanation. Because it's not just Labour who are asking this question. It's literally the question on the lips and the hearts of Nigerians to say, look, all the monies that we've been saving, this sacrifice that you asked us to make with regards to the fuel subsidy, we need to see what all of those monies that you've saved have been used for. So the Minister of Finance has definitely got some explaining to do. Now, the federal government launches grassroots LPG drive in Bayelsa, and that is the picture that we have on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. We could see the authority chief executive, NMDPRA. You could also see the coordinating director, Decade of Gas, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Peripo Ekpo, and a host of others, in that particular lineup. Menace of open defecation, Nigeria's silent sanitation emergency. That one is on page 19. Nigeria mourns ex-finance minister Abubakar Alhaji. All right, landing on Delta Road. Aircraft crew still in DSS detention. This is coming from the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo. He made an appearance on television yesterday, to speak to some national issues. And he says the recent incident involving an aircraft that landed on Delta Road, that the aircraft crew is still in DSS detention, answering some questions. There's another headline that says, unmet demands, resident doctors begin strike August 10. That's a huge one. Details on page 9. Osun election, we won't bow to intimidation. This is coming from Adeleke, the governor of the state, and we literally have just 15 days now to the election. At the top strip of the Vanguard, Orire, why we refused to negotiate with terrorists, Tinubu, Makinde sets up probe panel. Details on page 8 and page 12. Remember, a couple of days after the rescue of the abducted pupils and teachers, Makinde had called for an international probe into the incident. Now, it appears he's taking the bull by the horn and decided to do the job himself. He set up a probe panel to look into all of that. Nigeria and other African countries face six-fold security threat in 2 years. This is coming from US Africom. But that's all we have for you on the Vanguard this morning. If you want to engage or respond to any of the headlines you just heard, the number to call is 0906-202-9933. Marian.
And from the Vanguard newspaper, we now turn our attention to the Punch. The Punch newspaper this morning, and it's leading with a story, Oyo Abduction, why we tracked arrested kidnappers' families. This is the statement coming in from the President Bola Tinubu. Oyo Abduction, why we tracked arrested kidnappers' families. He made this known during a visit, a delegation of Oyo State traditional rulers in Abuja, where he told the delegation that his government refused to negotiate with or pay ransom to the militants who kidnapped school children and teachers in Orire last May. The president stands on his words to say no ransom was paid, no negotiation whatsoever. We can't negotiate with terrorists. He said the abductors demanded both money and the release of jailed members of their gang, demands that were flatly rejected, and described the military-led rescue that freed the victims after 56 days as intelligence-driven and successful without ransom. The President Tinubu said his recent order to expand the army from 8 to 12 divisions was a direct operational response to the crisis, aimed at shortening response times and giving security forces the numerical and geographic reach needed to defeat terrorism and banditry. So here you have it again. The president is reiterating his stance that no ransom was paid, no exchange of whatsoever that they demanded was made. It was a rescued mission as regards to the intelligence the military gathered. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. If any of the story interests you, then grab a copy to read more, but you can let us know your thoughts as well. The writer to that story: abductors wanted us to release their detained members, pay ransom, or we should pay ransom. We were prepared to finish with terrorist families. Militants from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, fueling Nigeria's insecurity. These words are all credited to the President, Bola Tinubu. Still on the Punch newspaper, just at the top strip of it, Army probes leaked DSS memo warning of Adamawa Borno attacks. Army probes leaked DSS memo warning of Adamawa Borno attacks. It's on page 7 of the Punch, beside the nameplate. Osun 2026, Adeleke Oyebanji signed peace pact as INEC warns troublemakers. And now that peace pact was signed yesterday, but the governor did, express his concerns about how much of his party members have received the backlash and violence attacks. Some have been killed, but they didn't, sign this peace pact. We're hoping that this signing of peace would indeed be felt and seen in Osun State, leading to the election and even after the election. That story can be found on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. Fuel subsidy savings report coming soon. That is from Oyedele, where he says, you want to find out where all of these subsidy monies are going? We'll give you a full report very much soon. So we keep tabs on it, and when that report is out, we'll be sure to bring it to you. Drug trafficking in Africa jumps 6-fold in 2 years, Africam says. Is on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. And the pictures speak. On the front page of the Punch, you have some delegates right there in Bayelsa, where they've now launched some committee to monitor local government and all. That is the Punch newspaper this morning.
Let's take a quick look at the New Telegraph this morning. It's leading with the major story. Resident doctors issue August 10 strike notice over unpaid arrears and welfare concerns. It has the writers condemn harassment and violent attacks on healthcare workers, demand immediate resolution of lingering crisis at Luth. That's the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Only 1,200 medical doctors serving 9 million Ogun residents. This is coming from the NMA, the Nigerian Medical Association. NUC approves Jigawa Medical Varsity to boost Nigeria's doctor workforce. A lot of developments right there in the health sector as regards the welfare of our medical personnel. But if you want more details, it's on pages 2, 5, and 6 of New Telegraph. And above that headline, we have Tinubu, Obasanjo, and Oti call for national unity as Abia honors Aguiyi. Of course, he was Nigeria's first head of state. Insecurity, federal government, and Southeast draw action plan at Umuahia Security Summit. Wike, we are appealing to Tinubu over 400 billion naira Millennium Tower project. Okay, what's he talking about there? And it appears some of the comments that were made by the president as well yesterday. He had a message for the governors in that engagement. There's a global shift towards grassroots populism. Amashiri says regionalism antidote to totalitarianism. NMPC Limited to acquire 10% stake in Seplat. Marian will give us more details and business brief this morning. Tinubu dissolves Presidential Committee on Federal Properties. We also have U.S. launches heavy strikes on Iran after attempted attack on American troops. And Osun 2026, INEC deploys undercover operatives to tackle vote buying. INEC deploys undercover operatives to tackle vote buying, identifies flashpoints to use 4,427 beavers for poll. Oyebamiji absent as candidate signed peace accord. The accord that Marian was just talking about, it appears that Oyebamiji, the candidate of the APC, wasn't present for that, unless maybe he sent a representative, but that's not reported in the headlines. We may have to take a look into the inside pages to get more on that. Oni and Commission call for violence-free poll. Adeleke alleges police bias and seeks Peace Committee's intervention in the SSG's arrest. We talked about it yesterday. But when you hear that INEC has deployed undercover operatives to tackle vote buying, I mean, the issue of vote buying has to do with financial crime, albeit it's happening during the period of election. And one would expect that the police, the EFCC, the ICPC would be the ones, on top of that situation. But it appears that INEC has gone a bit further, in their primary responsibility of conducting elections to also put a clamp down on vote buying. We'll see how things pan out in Osun State. Terrorists threaten to marry beautiful women among 176 Woro captives and kill others. That's not a good one. Oyo Abduction. We refuse to pay ransom and negotiate with bandits. Tinubu. Makinde constitutes a judicial commission on Oyo abductions. Okay? So that's some of the headlines. Makinde constitutes Judicial Commission on Oyo Abduction. And this is a couple of weeks after the abducted pupils and their teachers were rescued. And he's constituted that particular panel and said the commission was expected to determine the circumstances surrounding the abduction and identify the factors that led to the security breach. He said the panel was also tasked to make recommendations to prevent a recurrence.
The leading story on the front page of the nation's newspaper reads, How Federal Government Deploying Fuel Subsidy Savings by Oyedele. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, has said that the petrol subsidy savings, were deployed to servicing rising debt obligations, implementing the new national minimum wage, and financing student loans. The federal government has said through him as of yesterday. He added that the part of the savings were channeled towards sustaining critical social intervention programs. The government also defended its reforms. It insisted that the removal of fuel subsidy and the liberalization of the foreign exchange market were painful but necessary decisions that helped stabilize Nigeria's economy after years of structural distortions. The Minister of Finance, he spoke during a question and answer session at the 7th Africa Emerging Market Forum in Abuja, where responded to concerns over what became of the savings realized from the reforms. Quite a very important question, and he says in the coming days, a full report of how the spendings have been and where they've gone to will be reeled out to the public. And we'll keep tabs on that one. But still on the front page of the Nation newspaper, Shetima leads mourners at Alhaji's burial. It's on page 25 of the Nation newspaper. Otedola is First Holdco's largest shareholder with 25.9% stake. FCCPC seeks tighter control to protect electricity consumers. Tinubu, Obasanjo, Aguiyi-Ironsi, a patriot. All of those are on the Punch the Nation newspaper, rather. Tinubu links Nigeria's insecurity to Sahel crisis. He made mention of all of this during that visit as well. Funds used for debt servicing, minimum wage, student loan, others, subsidy and all, what the government is saying where the subsidy that was removed is going to. But then the Punch newspaper, the Vanguard, the Telegraph, and now the Nation newspaper let us know which of the stories you are going with. That's the Nation newspaper this morning. The phone